they were staying home.
One of the largest ambulance companies in Colorado says they are in need of more funding.
When you do that 10 to 15 times a day, it's really increasing the cost.
And waiting on the vaccine.
As the state finalizes the schedule, we're learning hundreds of Colorado COVID-19 patients who tested positive are testing positive again.
I think there's unfortunately lots of things we still don't know about reinfection with this virus.
And we begin tonight with new information at 5. The security company that employed the unlicensed guard who shot and killed a man at a Denver rally back in October will now surrender its license here in the Mile High City.
Isborne Security cannot apply for a new license for at least 5 years, according to this agreement made today.
The city says Isborne contracted with Matthew Doloff, despite Doloff not having a license to work as a security guard in Denver. Doloff was then contracted through Pinkerton Security and was hired by 9 News to protect their crew covering the protest. During an argument at that October rally, he shot and killed Lee Keltner. Now, Doloff posted bail back in November. He has a preliminary hearing at the beginning of next year.
Colorado Department of Public Health says the first round of about 46,000 vaccine doses should be arriving in our state in just over a week. And that vaccine cannot come soon enough. Today, the state's epidemiologist said they have seen around 300 cases in Colorado now of people who already had the virus and then tested positive again. And she is not sure if these people were contagious the second time around. And for the first time in a week, we added another 6,000 positive cases today. That number has been around 4,000 since last Thursday. Hospitalizations also continue to rise. There are now nearly 2,000 beds being used by COVID-19 patients. And sadly, we hit a new weekly peak for COVID-19 deaths. We ended the week of November 22nd with 247 coronavirus deaths. The last time we saw a number that high was back in April. And now more than 2,700 people have died in Colorado from this virus. Today, state health officials talked about the rise we expect to see in the next week because of Thanksgiving and also where we stand on vaccines.
Denver7's Lance Hernandez is joining us tonight. Lance, any word yet on a specific timeline when different groups can get vaccinated here?
Not a specific timeline yet. We do know that Colorado is expected to receive its first batch of vaccine, 46,800 doses, around December 12th. We also know that like those here at Denver Health are first in line to be vaccinated.
I don't like to be a grim prognosticator here, but if the curve keeps rising, as the R value suggests it will right now, we'll see more hospitalizations, more cases, and more deaths.
Dr. John Samet of the Colorado School of Public Health showing COVID death projections now versus those with a 10% holiday-related surge and a 30% surge. The difference, 2,500 people. Those projections leading to questions about a vaccine. We asked about the time frame for immunizations. Denver Public Health and Environment says they've been told to prepare for a vaccine as soon as December 12th, but they have received no indication of allotment availability. The CDC is suggesting that healthcare workers get immunizations first, then the elderly, and later on, the general public. State health officials didn't address vaccines during their update this afternoon, but they did answer a question about immunity if you've already had the disease.
It's difficult to know if those are individuals who would have potentially been able to spread the virus or not.
State epidemiologist Rachel Herlihy says there have been instances where people have tested positive twice.
Continue to do everything we can to get everybody tested.
Last month, the head of Denver Public Health and Environment tried to put minds at ease about the vaccine.
I'm confident when this rolls out that this will be effective, it'll be safe.
Dr. Anthony Fauci at the CDC did the same thing.
And I will get vaccinated when my time arrives. I promise you that.
And Dr. Herlihy says we won't know about that Thanksgiving surge until about December 7th. They're going to be keeping a close watch on those statistics. She also said it's likely that Coloradans will be asked to refrain from gathering with other people from other households over the Christmas holiday. Lance Hernandez, Denver7.
All right, Lance, thank you. And tonight we're going to go 360 on the vaccine timeline in Colorado, hearing what experts have to say. Doctors, professors, we're asking them all what a vaccine rollout will look like in Colorado. Also, if some people refuse to get the shot, what does it look like? So you can watch that tonight on Denver7 News at 6.
So we heard Dr. Anthony Fauci speak directly to Coloradans earlier this week about the vaccine rollout and the surges on the way. Another person paying very close attention to Dr. Fauci, President-elect Joe Biden. In a new CNN interview with CNN to air today, Biden says he asked Fauci to serve as his chief medical advisor.
We spoke today at 3 o'clock. My COVID team met with him. I asked him to stay on in the exact same role he's had for the past several presidents. And I asked him to be a chief medical advisor for me as well and be part of the COVID team.
Meanwhile, CNN is reporting that President-elect Biden has reportedly chosen Jeffrey Zients to be the White House coronavirus coordinator. Zients was an economic advisor under President Barack Obama. A formal announcement is expected in the next few days. Our healthcare workers, doctors, and hospitals, they're working harder than ever to provide care during this pandemic.
But there's one piece to that puzzle that's not getting the support they say they need. That's the ambulance companies. Here's Denver7's Jessica Porter.
All of our colleagues in Colorado, we're looking for funding.
The coronavirus pandemic has been a struggle for private ambulance companies. PPE shortages, rising costs, and at times significant drops in the number of calls.
So the folks that really needed to go to the hospital, they were staying home. So that created more health problems for folks. And then the call volume went down by 30%.
But now COVID cases are surging. Scott Len, the vice president of the Rocky Mountain Plains region for American Medical Response, says ambulance companies are struggling to keep up with the costs of personal protective equipment.
So, every call, crews are wearing N95s, are having a gown up, mask up, glove up. So, when you do that 10 to 15 times a day, it's really increasing the cost.
Len says the private ambulance industry saw less than 1% of CARES Act funding, and they didn't find help during the special session of the Colorado legislature.
To my knowledge, there was no bills that related to EMS funding.
Paramedics are working around the clock as we face the toughest months of the pandemic. Some ambulance companies are being pushed to the breaking point.
If they don't get the needed help, they could be out of business. So when you do call 911 in those areas, somebody may not be able to respond.
Jessica Porter, Denver7.
Well, just in time for winter, Denver's second tiny home village has opened to help the city's homeless population. The 14 new homes are just north of Denver's Rhino Arts District and are designated for women and trans individuals. They are run by Colorado Village Collaborative and meant to help transition those living on the streets to getting a permanent home. The first 2 residents have already moved in. And today we're getting our first look at tents inside the city of Denver's first sanctioned campsite opening near the Capitol building next week. Safe outdoor space at First Baptist Church will be run by 8 full-time and 2 part-time staffers who will be paid to monitor the site. 30 women and trans individuals will be allowed to stay there when it opens on Monday. And by mid-December, another safe outdoor space will open at Denver Community Church for about 40 people who need a place to stay.
Do you often dream things that happen just as you dreamed them?
Yes. Is it the end of movie theaters as we know them?
The new decision by Warner Brothers that might be the nail in the coffin.
It stands for coziness, comfort.
A smart device to use and store electricity. The Colorado company putting power control in your hands.
And when all else fails outside of your home, your apartment, the backup power will boot up.
Plus millions of lights for a zoo tradition that's gone on for decades.
We've got plenty of people that say, I came and had my first date here, and now I'm married to that person, and now we're bringing our kids.
Temperatures bounce back today, but wait until you see the weekend forecast.